Parnu bus station, day trip. Is it ambitious? So much to see and do here. How much can we possibly achieve? It's madness, I know, we can only scratch the surface, but if you're willing to come along with me and help with the scratching, let's go. The birds are singing, the sun is shining. What a better time to come to Parnu. So we're not at the beach, we're actually at the bus station. This is going to be Parnu in a nutshell. There's so much to see and do here. We're not in the summer season when there's even more to see and do, but the weather's been kind to us, and I'm going to try and pinpoint some of the highlights that you can enjoy maybe in just a day trip, for example. Just a short distance from the bus station, which is the green building you can see, turquoise perhaps, building you can see behind the bus here. There's a Rimi Mini straight across the road, so if you've been travelling from Riga, 2.5 hours on the bus, the mean bus drivers said no eating on the bus. You might be a bit peckish when you get to Parnu. You can pop straight across to the Rimi Mini supermarket and grab yourself something to eat. If you want to stretch your legs a little further, another 100 meters, you can see the black and red building is the Port Arthur 2 shopping mall, and downstairs in there you will find a larger supermarket. There's also Subway sandwich just there, depending on what suits your appetite. Now, where do we start in Parnu? Almost an embarrassment of riches. But this is out of season, so some of the benefits of coming to Parnu won't be necessarily apparent to everybody, but I'm going to try and highlight some of them. If you're coming to Parnu from Tallinn, about 30 kilometers out of Parnu, you will see on the right hand side advertised an auto museum. If you're on a bicycle, a motorbike, or in a car, that's a nice little place you might want to consider popping into, particularly if the weather's not too good. What we've got here, again, right on the doorstep of the bus station, is a train engine from 1911. It's just standing here, freestyle, waiting for children to jump up and pretend that they're the driver. It's apparently the oldest surviving railway engine in Estonia. Dates back to 1911, which it doesn't seem that far away really in history. You'd expect it to be perhaps a 19th century engine. A little reminder that the railway station used to be right here, right on the edge of the old town. Used to be very convenient. It's now rather inconveniently situated and no longer operating with rolling stock. However, up until 1944, you'd have got off the train here, but now everybody finds the bus service far more convenient, whether you're coming from Tartu, whether you're coming from Tallinn, or even from Latvia. There's a beautiful old wooden building directly across from the little train. Look at that gem. But there are so many gems. And just around the corner here from the little train, just point out we've got the town hall building and also a free art museum. Free art gallery, I think we call it, or maybe not. We can call it a museum of new art. even if it's inclement weather, you can jump off the bus, see the little train. You've had your snacks from Rimy, ready for your first museum, and hope the sun comes out. But we're blessed today. We've got the sun straight away. That's fantastic. Once again, for your convenience, if you're driving an electric car, here you can get souped up with energy. And there's the first of Parnu's many night spots you might want to make a note of. Particularly this one, it's called Casa. And it's, right in the heart of the focal point of much of the nightlife in the town. It's aimed at a slightly older crowd, so if you're 35 plus, you'll find this one suits you perhaps better than most of the others. This is the main tourist drag in the town, and as I mentioned before, several night spots right here. There's one here which used to be called Mirage, it's now called Spice apparently. And Bristol Hotel, Dodo Pizza. Lots of places to grab eats and drinks and a bed to sleep. Over here we've got Coco Loco. Now, we passed a Coco Loco karaoke bar in Tallinn, if you remember, in a previous video. And this one here will set you back in the summer, anything between €3 and €5. It's a sort of mini disco, mini bar, mini karaoke place. Stays open Friday to Saturday until 7 in the morning. So don't let the party end. When some places close, come along to Coco Loco. They didn't even pay me for saying that. Directly across from Coco Loco is a very popular little place. Used to be a chemist shop. It's retained its name, Aptek, as in Apteka, and it now serves particularly the young people in Parnu, the teens who like to have a few Red Bulls and vodka shots in the parks first and then come along to Aptek to get hot and sweaty and some more drinks, have a dance on the tiny dance floor, pop into the back room, maybe play some table tennis. It is a tiny place, and if you're not a very young local, you might find it a bit disappointing if you've queued up expecting it to turn into a TARDIS. It's going to be an acquired taste. There are plenty of other restaurants and bars down all the side streets. We are walking down Night Street, the Rutli as it's called in Estonian, and it's the main tourist sort of hub for most people. I just wanted to point out we're also in close proximity to the nearest hostel. This one's called Homiku Hostel, and if you don't mind a bit of late night noise, then this is the location for you. We are about a 15-minute walk from the beach, so for some people they might whinge and say, oh, it's not very well located, but if you were right at the beach, you'd be away from most of the nightlife and away from the supermarkets and away from many of the cafes and bars, the bus station, etc., etc. Oh, I was going to point out, but it slipped my mind. When we were looking at Port Arthur 2 shopping mall, about 500 metres east of that shopping mall, there's an enterprise called Parnu Paintball. They haven't got a website as far as I can see, but if you go onto Facebook, you should be able to find them. It's not clear whether it's a business which you have to contact first to make exclusive reservations for your group to go paintballing. I did discover it's €25 per person, but it doesn't have a sort of general opening hour. If you are considering doing something in less than ideal weather conditions in your summer holiday or any time of the year, that paintballing experience might be an alternative. Just an idea. And another idea for you, if we come down here, a little side street, we're on Homiku. The name of the hostel is Homiku Hostel back there, and the name of the street is Homiku. Let's take a little look from here, shall we? At Punani Tower, the Red Tower. There we get a glimpse of it. It's a part of the city's set of museums, 15th century construction. You can go in there for a limited time. You can only stay in there 30 minutes because it is a small space, and upstairs here are the latest prices and opening hours. Here's some of the history. Just talking over that, I will add, there's a 360-degree panorama cinema experience where they show 10-minute animation, as they say here. It takes you through the long history of the Parnu region, not just the town itself. It takes you from prehistory up to the present. I don't feel like spending €6 going in there. It does feel a bit uncomfortable knowing that you can only spend 30 minutes in a museum, but it isn't big. Really, it's mostly going to be about the historic film in animated form. Many of these other exhibits, you may well find, are not held within this museum. They may be at the main Parnu Museum. Can't swear to that. It's not one for me. It may be of interest, particularly as it's the only sort of remaining tower in this spot. The door is open. No, sorry, not going in. Not on this occasion. Oh, there's a mill game here. Curious game. The pieces aren't out, but yeah, you can play a larger than life board game, perhaps only during the summer season, or maybe you have to pay a little bit of money to rent the pieces which move around on the board. And going left out of the big doorway, if you were to go down there, end of the street, there's a casino if that suits you for your pleasure and recreation. There's also a discoteca, another one. You don't want to dance with the teens in Aptec, and you don't want to dance with the older folk in Casa, and you don't want to karaoke with the singing folk in Coco Loco. There's Varicas Club. Nice place. Why not? Again, you're going to be paying about €5-6 peak season. There may be a special price if there's a concert, if there's a particular well-known group performing in any of these establishments. Obviously there may be a concert ticket price, maybe €10, maybe 15, depending on how famous and how good they are. There may also be concession prices. If it's the very beginning of the season or out of season, you may be paying only €3. Back down Homiku now, because I just remembered I wanted to point out something else. Here at the end of Homiku, we have Koidula Park. Very pretty place, surrounded by very pretty wooden buildings. course, lots of greenery. This is a place which, during the summertime, you often find that little bands will effectively put on impromptu concerts for you. This can happen in many of the parks and even on the side streets of the old town in Parnu. If the weather's good, particularly if it's a weekend, you'll find musicians and singers. Here, a brass band would typically show up around about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on a summer's afternoon. If you like brass bands, you might be in for a treat. The park, Koidula Park, is named after this lady, Lydia Koidula. She's renowned in Estonia as a national poet. And I'll be telling you a little bit more about her when we're in the vicinity of her museum. I'm now going to give you a flavour of a little street which runs from Koidula Park in parallel to Rutli Street. It's called Kuninga. Once again, there's this familiar, handsome Nordic style architecture. And lots of other unexpected things. Like a big, strange elephant being chased by a frog. Piece of artwork on the side of a building. A real blend of traditional architecture from 18th century, predominantly, where some buildings have fallen into disrepair. Windows have been broken, and it's been a little bit pricey to replace the glass. Somebody's come up with a different idea. Let's give some local artists the opportunity to fill in the window frames. For better or worse, depending on your opinion on the outcome. Here's our elephant chased by the frog painting again, which is interesting. What have we got here? Caparol and Alternative Street Art Festival Parnu 2022. Oh, now that sounds interesting. So, if there's been a street art festival not so long ago, maybe we're going to be in for some more nice surprises. Makes you wonder now. If you're me, it makes you wonder anyway. What's just around the corner? My goodness, look at this. Look at this. Beautiful. Some more artwork up there. More red brick architecture. Parkland. And I'm not sure all of this is the highest quality artwork. Bicycle rental here. When it operates, it looks as though probably weekends only out of the summertime. But still, if you want to cycle around Parnu, then you certainly can. Whatever you do, please do not try and borrow that little bicycle up there, okay? Go through the proper process. sooner do I turn the camera off than I have to turn it back on again, because I see a sign for a place which was pointed out to me when I was in Tallinn. Look out for Stefani Pizza, I was told. The Italians might not be impressed. They'll think, oh, only pizza is in Italy. What are you talking about? But if you want to try something unique to Parnu, because this restaurant doesn't exist in any of the other towns or cities in Estonia, then there's Stefani's restaurant pizza and the establishment just round the side, I believe. It really is a beautiful, tranquil town. I've highlighted at the outset some of the nightlife, which of course in the summer is what you'd expect. If that isn't your scene, you can find corners of the town anyway, even in peak season, where you can escape the noise of laughter and tomfoolery, accompanied with a little bit of minor excesses of alcohol consumption. But it's not a place where you find people drop down drunk or gangs of guys brawling or anything like that. It really isn't. And in the shoulder season, you can get the feeling that you've almost got the place to yourself, which is a mixed blessing, you know. It's one of those situations where if you find yourself as a tourist in a location which is extremely popular, and certainly many Finns, for example, like to descend upon Parnu in the summertime, as well as Estonians and all sorts of travellers like me and hopefully you. But as soon as we wish, oh, if only all these tourists would go and we could have it to ourselves, sometimes that does actually take away some of the atmosphere of the place when you are the only tourist walking around the beach area and the main shopping areas. And here's a man called Georg Wilhelm Richman. Who was he? He was born in Parnu on this very street, King Street, in 1711. He invented the first electrometer in 1745. Okay. On August the 6th, 1753, at his lab in St. Petersburg, Richmond succeeded in capturing a lightning strike, which killed him. Okay. It's almost comical, isn't it? I know it was 300 years ago and I still shouldn't be laughing at the fact the guy died, but yeah. Tried to capture lightning, succeeded, and it killed him. I can't really say much more about that, really. Can say that he was born on a street of very handsome buildings and a church with a tall tower, of course, which is now sorely in need of some paintwork. And I can see round the side there that indeed some works are going on. By the time you come to Parnu, you'll probably find this church is either another colour or it's had a brand new fresh paint job to show off on the corner here of Kuninga and Nikolai Street. And if we follow Nikolai Street up to Rutli again, you're getting a sense perhaps of how you can weave through the old town quite pleasingly. No fear of getting lost. And you can crisscross and that way get an overview, as we're doing now, to save a little bit of time, I have to admit. I can hear some music, so some places are still open. If you feel like a hot chocolate or something entirely different, maybe some soup. It's coming up for lunchtime, and look what we've got here. Another handsome building. On Oos Street. And another handsome building down there. Green roofed church. We have the town's gallery here. Oh, the tourist information office is closed. I'm glad I didn't say, and here's the tourist information office. Because I guess they're not getting enough tourists at the moment. Not just yet. That's a shame. If you can remember, and having seen this building once, how could you possibly forget? It's a beauty. That is the location of the tourist office when it's functioning. On Oos, just where Oos meets Nikolai Street. Diagonally opposite this handsome medieval wooden structure. And just around the corner from what I believe is the town hall. Just there, flying flags. And I'm going to point out on Oos another hostel option. There are three essentially, right in the old town or on the close periphery of it. And next to this supremely dull, bland exterior is the polar opposite. An absolutely gorgeous 18th century building. I've stayed in this hostel, Voorad Oos, which means strangers in the night. It's a summer-only hostel. Downstairs, when I was visiting a few years back, there was a 10 or 12 bed dorm, numerous private rooms, large reception area, absolute knockout main door. 1763. The building dates from, presumably. Lots of nice features downstairs in the, well, you can't see through the windows, they've been covered up, but downstairs there is a small common room area and what do they call it? That game where there are little footballers on rods and a ball. Not Tischspieler, but Fuss. Is it Fußspieler? Fußball? Fußspieler? I've forgotten the name of it, but there's a little game that you can play, like miniature football thing, on a table. That's down in the basement as well. There's a small kitchen. Lots of historic features all around the place. Up at the top, there's also at the back of the building my preferred dorm. I think there were about 4 or 5 beds when I stayed in there about half a dozen years ago. And they're single beds, whereas in the larger dorm downstairs, they are the traditional bunk beds. I pampered myself a little bit and went for the single bed option. And here we have a building with Gildy written on the side of it. And you may remember again from a Tallinn video you may have seen that I made, just mentioned the Maria Magdalena Guild. I see that, okay, they're not advertising the 2023 one, but this is an old advert from 2022 advertising last summer's festival. Beginning of August looks as though it's a week to think about if you're interested in traditional handicrafts of all sorts. Here's yet another fine building directly opposite the green space, within which you can see it's a nice big space. And over that weekend in August each year, they have the traditional handicraft festival. So if you're looking for souvenirs or you want to see some crafts women in particular who are displaying their skills with embroidery, knitting, lace making, perhaps jewellery making. And I seem to remember in the vicinity there were some male artisans as well who were doing some blacksmith work. And of course there'll be the traditional sort of handicrafts of handmade cheeses and honey stalls and things of that nature. So this lovely little green space gets filled up with lots of possibilities, as I say, for you to see traditional crafts being carried out, and also to put your hand in your wallet or purse and treat yourself to a lovely souvenir you might not get in Tallinn or in Tartu or anywhere else. And if you've seen it actually being made or worked on, then that makes it even more special, doesn't it? If you're interested in festivals, Parnu is absolutely chock-a-block with them. This is just one in particular I mentioned because it's right on the doorstep of that hostel, and we just happened to be walking by and saw the old, slightly out of date, notices for it. I'm going to get carried away and totally distracted by all this architecture which I've seen 100 times before, but I still can't get enough of it. I'm not going to be one of those people who say, oh yeah, I've seen all this style of architecture before. I'm the other sort of tedious old bugger who says, oh, I can't get enough of this. I'll let you drink it all in, soak it all up. And silly me, even though it's out of season, the Maria Magdalena Guild has their shop open for business. Open till 4 in the afternoon, serving vegan food as well as salad, coffee, soup and other things which I can't translate because I'm just doing the easy bit that's obvious. So there's also a shop there, you can buy some of those gifts we were talking about and perhaps indulge in a studio exhibition of an artisan's work that might be going on in there. It says studio shops. Maybe just a shop, or maybe my imagination wasn't getting completely the better of me. And perhaps you will see inside. I'm not going in there because I'm in a hurry. That's one excuse anyway. You might see an artist working away at something, and you might get some hands-on opportunities to learn how to become a potter or a better stitcher or a weaver or a better cheese smoker or something of that sort. And just down here, more cafe options. If you like an Irish pub feel, here's the Sweet Rosy Irish Pub. If you're a sort of more sedate, don't want to hit the dance floor, don't want to hear disco music, just want to have a drink and maybe some food, perhaps a cozy couple, that venue sits opposite a lovely little park. Another one, yes, Parnu's full of them, of course. And there's a late night food stand over there, which obviously is closed as we are not in summertime yet. And another little, I was going to say cafe. It's advertising itself as Vino and Gino. I think, if my eyesight is interpreting it correct. Ah, wine and gin, I see. Yep, that works. Well, no, I'm not suggesting that you drink the two together. I mean, the translation understanding of the, yeah, you know what I mean. Vino and Gino. There we see a workman, perhaps not realizing it's lunch break, or he's too dedicated to stop for lunch, working atop that church. Obviously can't get any closer, so we won't even try it. But this is a gorgeous little spot, isn't it? So many of them around the town. And it's funny how I find myself mentioning, oh yeah, it's a summer resort and all the nightlife for all tastes really are catered for here, I think. On a day like this, it feels supremely serene, doesn't it? Let's have a look at the cost of those late night munchies. A shawarma, chicken shawarma, will be €7. Drinks, half a litre of Coca-Cola, €2.50. Falafel, €4. A mini shawarma box, €4. Here's a little man, another little man. I'm a little man saying, here's a little man. Only this man is far more famous and far more gifted. Let's see his story. I believe this man was the father of the lady we saw in a statue in her own park earlier, Lydia Koidula. And her father's noted as, well, I've seen it written that he was considered the father of Estonian journalism. Johan Valdemar Jansen was a central figure in the Estonian national awakening movement. Let's see if I can move in a little closer. There we are. He edited the first issue of the weekly paper, Parnu Postimees, or Post Times. Not sure how that's pronounced. In 1857, marking the beginning of continuous journalism in the Estonian language. While working as a primary school teacher in Parnu, he published the newspaper until 1863. He organised the first Estonian Song Festival in 1869 and the second in 1879 in Tartu. He was a prolific writer, also wrote the words for the Estonian national anthem. And his daughter went on to be that famous poetess. There he is, Mr. Jansen. And for a little fella like me, I'm looking at him now and thinking, oh, he wasn't such a small man after all. Some fine detail in this casting. And it's fitting, perhaps, that he's right here in a place of prominence, opposite the Parnu newspaper office, and opposite a post box. You don't see many of these in Estonia. If you do see an orange and blue box, you'll be thinking, thank God I've got somewhere to put my postcards. If there are people who still send postcards. Yeah, I think that's the perfect place for his memorial statue, don't you? Super. Oh, there's a Knight Street antique shop there. And the all-important map of the town, highlighting some of the important buildings as well. Like the town hall, the Ekaterina Church, which is being renovated, we saw. The Elizabeth Church, which is also having a new paint job. And here is central historic Old Town Parnu. So you can see it's a little walk to the beach, but it certainly isn't going to kill you. And you do want a bit of exercise, don't you? And now we're going to go just round the corner to another little park, to another night spot, and to another hostel. Meet you there.